Alright, y'all. So today I want to do a very quick video to discuss all of the big Marvel news that's been coming out recently. Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, just sat down with a bunch of reporters to discuss a lot of things, and I'm here just to get here to give you my thoughts on a lot of the answers he gave to those reporters. And there's a lot of information and a lot of news, so I just want to go one by one to kind of give you my thoughts on it. So the first thing we have here is a reporter apparently asked him and basically confirmed that Avengers Secret Wars will reset the MCU. It won't reboot the MCU, so to speak. It will just simply reset it, bring it back to more of a singular timeline. Which, was kind of obvious. I mean, especially if you know the Secret Wars comic book, that comic book basically reset the Marvel continuity, if I remember correctly. So this will basically just reset the MCU, which is completely fine by me. I think especially since the MCU has been going on for the past few years, it's been kind of getting a bit bulky and a bit unwieldy with its continuity, and especially in some instances like the Marvels where there's blatant contradictions in the characters and lore. I'm glad that they're just going to reset to more of a singular timeline. He also mentioned that there's a possibility for more R-rated films and the possibility of Deadpool to show up. He didn't really directly answer that, but he said that, yep, it's still very much a possibility. So that's always good news, especially coming out of his mouth. Now, the second point of news I want to mention is that Miles Morales. People have been wondering if Miles is going to show up in the MCU, and he was asked about it. Apparently, Sony won't actually give him Miles until they're finished with their Beyond the Spider-Verse trilogy. So, like I said, the next film is coming out in 2027. And whenever they're done with that animated series of films, then they'll apparently give Marvel the rights to use them. Kind of an interesting side note. I mean, I think, like I said, Sony still owns a lot of those characters to the film rights. I think it makes more sense, though, for Miles to come after Secret Wars, just because, like I said, this film is going to act as a big reset to the MCU. So that'll be the perfect opportunity to introduce a character like that. So he just kind of gives some background and explanation why Miles hasn't shown up so far. Another very interesting thing he also said was about unanswered post-credit scenes from the MCU films. You know those. You got Charlize Theron, who appeared in the end of Multiverse of Madness. You also have Sacha Baron Cohen, who played Mephisto recently in Ironheart, and whoever played the Hercules guy. And he really didn't answer anything about it. A reporter asked him, like, if are we gonna get actually any follow up to any of these? And he said, in like a joking manner, "Oh, maybe we will in like 12 years. I mean, we did that with Tim Blake Nelson and the Leader and the new Captain America." And I'm like, so he really didn't even answer the question. He just kind of toyed around the idea that, like, oh, maybe we'll answer it, maybe we won't. Which I think is stupid, especially if like I said, you get all these famous actors together to do these little post-credit scenes, and then you don't really intend on really following them up. What's the point of doing them at all, right? Like, it's not a great answer. And then the next thing he mentioned, to kind of coincide with the thing with Secret Wars being a massive reset to the MCU, he confirmed that the next phase of the MCU after that is going to be the Mutant Saga. We're going to be focusing entirely on the X-Men and this new resetted continuity, which we all kind of figured already. But him coming out to just saying that the reporters basically confirms it, right? Makes a lot of sense. He also confirmed that the Thunderbolts director is going to be the director of the Marvel's X-Men film, which people are thinking might come out at some point in 2028. I'm not entirely sure. And basically the theme around the X-Men, he kind of said it would be kind of like the Xavier Mansion might become some kind of like the Avengers HQ in the main MCU right now, like kind of like the headquarters. Or let me preface that was the main headquarters for the Avengers and stuff. It will be kind of like like an HQ possibly, and all this stuff. So basically confirming that, like I said, X-Men are going to be here. They're going to be the focus of the next saga. The Thunderbolts guy is going to be doing the movie for the X-Men, the MCU X-Men movie. And he also confirmed that it's going to be a completely new cast of characters and actors to portray the X-Men. So it won't be any of the Fox X-Men characters, because there was kind of some uncertainty, right? I mean, especially when you hear all the news that these old Fox X-Men actors are going to be coming back to play their roles in the new Avengers films. People were kind of unclear, like, are they going to be part of this new MCU X-Men team? I'm glad that Feige put that to rest, because I think it just makes more sense. I want a new young cast of X-Men for the MCU. It just makes more sense. And it's great that he confirmed it's going to be the next saga. Another weird thing he mentioned was actually talking about, I think a reporter asked him about the whole Kang situation, which, to give a little context, a while back, Kang the Conqueror was the main focus of the MCU. They were really trying to set him up to be the next big bad like Thanos. Big bad. And, of course, the whole situation with the actor Jonathan Majors and the trial, which I have to give a little side note. I have to give Marvel props for, like, not firing the dude right away. They waited until his trial, and, of course, when he became guilty, they fired him, which I think was the smart decision. And, of course, they now pivoted towards Doctor Doom. But basically, he mentioned that apparently to a reporter that, yeah, we were thinking about replacing Kang with Doom even before Ant-Man and the Quantumania came out, and the whole situation with Jonathan Majors. I really have to press X to doubt for that, just because when that movie was coming out, they were really pushing Kang as the next big bad. I mean, he was featured in the new Loki series. He was the big new bad, and especially in that film where it was like that film was kicking off that new phase. I promise you, if that film made like a lot of money and was like more beloved critically, oh yeah, Kang would have been the major focus, the new villain for the MCU. But since that film really didn't make too much money, and like I said, Jonathan Major was an absolute great as Kang. I just don't think his writing was that great. I don't think the audience was that in tune with him, not into him. So I don't really buy Feige saying that he was thinking about using Doom, but oh well. Now we gotta talk about Blade. Now this is kind of like a lingering thing with the MCU. The film's been canceled, and is it still happening? What's going on with the movie? He was asked that. He basically blamed it on the whole situation of quantity over quality. That Marvel, after Endgame, were pushing out so many different projects, and that Blade was kind of a symptom of that. They were pushing it out too quickly, and then they kind of stopped and said, oh, we're really not happy with it. He also confirmed that there was 4 cut versions of the movie, 2 of them set in the early before the 20th century, and 2 of them set in modern day. So that's wild. 4 cut versions. I only assumed there was one, but because like I said, I already heard about the one that was like in the 1920s and was some kind of period piece. Before that version of the movie was scrapped, and a lot of the assets were used for that film's Sinners. But it's fascinating. There's 4 of them. He also confirmed that the Blade film is still in the works and that it's set in the modern day now. He also said that Ollie's still attached, and obviously from recent news, we know that he's still willing to do the movie. I guess it's good, We're still talking about Blade after all these years. It's kind of crazy that we still haven't gotten a Blade movie, especially when, like Feige made these weird comments and said, like, oh, Blade is more complicated than just going around killing vampires and wearing winter suits. I really press X to doubt for that, just because, like, Blade, in my opinion, is a very simple character to adapt. I mean, especially if you, like, talk to someone who doesn't know anything about comic books. Like, oh, a guy that gets in an Iron Man suit. Oh, a guy that turns into a red monster. That's kind of weird, but, oh, a guy that just runs around and kills vampires? I can get behind that, right? So, I don't know. I press X to doubt, but it's good that at least he's still talking about it. And, I mean, the most likely, if I had to guess, like, if that movie is ever going to come out, it would definitely come after Secret Wars, right? It will come after the whole MCU timeline has been reset. Then he was also asked more questions about what this post-reset MCU timeline, and this is where probably the biggest headline came from. Marvel obviously is going to get a brand new cast of young actors to play X-Men characters, but he also mentioned that tons of other characters that were either died or passed away are most likely or could be coming back. They're just going to be recast. And Marvel's apparently looking at recasting a new Iron Man and a new Captain America. And he kind of gave his reasoning for it, like with James Bond, where in that film, James Bond, over the years, he's had multiple actors portray James Bond, but they're all the same character. And I think that makes a lot of sense, especially with, like, characters like Iron Man and Captain America. They're very core to the MCU. And while, like I said, Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans were iconic and play those characters very well, I do agree with this, like, sentiments here. I think that for whatever reason, I think Marvel's been afraid to, like, recast people. I think the biggest oof, in my opinion, was, like, the Black Panther thing. I feel like they just should have recast the Black Panther instead of just doing the whole thing they did with Wakanda Forever. So it's good that Feige's saying some things more about recasting, and I don't blame him. I think that it's cool to have all these characters come back, and I don't mind having new actors give them a try, right? So that's pretty good, and pretty interesting. Feige also was asked more about the Spider-Man film, the new one, Spider-Man Brand New Day. He said that basically it's going to be a ground level neighborhood style story, which makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, Spider-Man, and especially in the MCU, has really not done any of that. And Spider-Man's weird, because Spider-Man's more of a ground level New York style hero. He's like along the lines of Daredevil, to be honest with you. But so, like I said, most of his adventures have been multiverse crazy stuff. But it's glad to hear that, that Feige confirmed that this new film is going to be more of a ground level story. He also confirmed that the Punisher is going to be in it, so that's really good to hear from his mouth. He also mentioned more about Marvel's output. He basically confirms that Marvel's really after this going to be making just one TV show a year and 2, maybe 3 films a year. So we're going back to more of like what the Infinity Saga was, where there was basically 2 movies a year, and maybe a TV show going on at the same time, right? And I'm honestly, like I said, not complaining about that. I think less films will mean only better for the films that are coming out, right? More quality over quantity. Something that Marvel's been talking about for a while, which is pretty good. He also mentioned that TV characters can appear in other films and projects, but that mostly the TV stuff will just stay in the TV stuff. So like all the Daredevil stuff like that's going to be happening is just going to mainly stay in their continuity. It's not a requirement to know all this stuff when you go into a new Marvel movie, which I honestly not a bad thing, right? I think Marvel, and especially with Disney Plus TV shows, especially like after Endgame, got really too crazy with the continuity stuff, because it's like, especially with things like Thunderbolts, all those characters came from like Disney Plus shows. So like if you didn't watch any of the shows, like I said, you might be lost on whoever these characters are, right? So I don't think it's a bad thing hearing this from Feige. I think that, I do think while it's great that it says limited continuity between TV shows and movies, I do still want references. I do still want, like, for example, he was asked, like, did the events in Thunderbolts affect what's going to happen in Daredevil? He blatantly said no. And I think that's, like, an okay answer, but I do think characters should reference what happened, right? Like, oh, some kind of weird, like, void thing where everyone became shadows happened briefly in downtown. Like, just like an offhand reference, so that makes the universe feel connected. But overall, what he's saying is good. And then in terms of, like, Feige was also asked about, like, what the future is going to hold, and he mentioned that, like I said, the Mutant Saga is happening next, and that he's apparently planned out films all the way to 2032. It's for the next 7 years, I believe. Kind of a crazy statement. I mean, it's cool he's got everything planned out, but like I said, plans can easily change. I mean, they did with Avengers Doomsday, right? Also mentioned, too, that a new writer on Avengers Doomsday was brought on, the guy who, I guess, wrote the original script for the movie, I believe, or worked on, like, the Loki series. He's coming on to help write it, so that's some interesting news, I guess, especially since Marvel, like I said, they have a very loose way of developing scripts. He also mentioned that Thor 5, and he mentioned that the actor who plays Thor, his prime, he mentioned that Thor is still in his prime, and that he thinks that Thor is going to be continuing to play the role in the MCU. We also been hearing rumors about a 5th Thor movie, despite what Hemsworth kind of posted a while back. So I don't know. I mean, I guess coming from Feige's mouth, I'm assuming Thor is definitely going to happen. Like, he's definitely going to play a role, but who knows? He also confirmed that Miss Marvel is going to come back at some point, which I'm all for. I think she was a really cool character, like one of the few standouts from the past 2 phases, so pretty cool. He also mentioned that Marvel as a whole, the universe is based in the real world. He also made some comments about James Gunn's Superman film. He said that he really liked it. He thought that he really liked the idea that it was a well-established world, and that there wasn't really a lot of world building to it. Like Mr. Terrific, like if you don't know who he is, you got to listen and buckle up, which is an interesting statement, definitely he will make. But he said that, while his world was more fantasy, he said that the MCU world is going to be based more on the real world and maybe comment on things that are happening in our real life. So still kind of the same status quo, but like I said, a pretty interesting one. Um, and then a reporter asked him about like James Gunn's comments about like, oh, I don't greenlight a project unless I have a completed script. Feige kind of like backpedaled a bit on that response. He said, "Oh, we never greenlight a project without a good script, and that the thing is with my way of working on movies, I just constantly change and tweak things right up to the film's release." Which is very true. We've heard many times when a Marvel movie comes out, especially with things like Ant-Man, for example, that film had originally had like a much more darker ending, but Feige must have changed it at the very last minute, and we got the ending that we got, which in my opinion was the worst one. But he basically confirms that, yeah, we do have a script, we know what we're doing, but we just like to tweak and adjust things. And I don't entirely believe what he's saying. I mean, I would assume that they do have some kind of script when they actually start shooting the movie, obviously, but like, does every film have a complete script? I mean, because Marvel has famously been loose about how they make movies. Like, I think Iron Man started out, like, they started filming that movie way back in the day without a finished script. And I think Jeff Bridges said it was, like, the most expensive student film he's ever, in terms of describing it, he thought it was, like, the most expensive student film that's been made at the time. So, I don't know if I entirely believe his comments, but I do believe the fact that Feige definitely tweaks and loves adjusting things with the scripts and the story of the movie. So definitely pretty interesting stuff, right? And yeah, that's overall kind of a big barrage of news that Feige came out with. A lot of very interesting things he said, a lot of things that got confirmed, things that we kind of already knew got confirmed as well. Overall, I'm still looking forward to the future of the MCU. I'm very excited to see what these Avengers movies, how good they're going to be. I'm looking forward to Fantastic Four. That film is coming out next week, so we'll definitely see how that is. And I'm very excited to see the Mutant Saga play out in the MCU. Finally, we're not only getting the Fantastic Four finally by Marvel, but we're eventually going to get a new X-Men movie, which I'm very excited for. So yeah, overall, a lot of very fascinating news. Just wanted to give you my quick thoughts on it. Overall, have a nice day. Peace.